And hello and welcome into the hospitality room presented by Mascot Media on a I don't even know what day it is anymore. Oh well. It doesn't matter. Bobby Swofford, Blair Cartwright here. Mr. Swofford, how are you?
I'm good. I'm back from the great Northeast, that is Northeast Arkansas. We tried to tape this once today, and the
Yeah.
internet gremlins, mainly the cell phone signal, didn't work out so well. So we're going to try this again. Went to Paragould and back today, about 2.5 hour drive from the house, and here we are.
You didn't stop at Roy's on the way out of Paragould, did you?
I didn't. No, actually, I wasn't into much of Paragould. I snuck in, like, I guess, the western border. The
Okay.
golf course is right there by Greene County Tech, and then snuck
Oh
right back out.
wow. Wow. Kind of old stomping grounds back in the day, so I don't remember.
Yeah. I
I don't
think that was my
remember.
first ever trip to Paragould.
Wow. I actually called play by play for Greene County Tech when I was in college for a year.
No kidding.
Yeah, football. Verl Mitchell was the running back. He would later be an offensive lineman in Arkansas. It was crazy. Mike Todd was my color guy, and he was the state representative.
Very cool.
So, yeah, it was pretty wild. But
Huh.
anyway,
Yeah,
rabbit holes if we go
I
down.
don't.
Yes.
Yeah, I don't know that I'd ever been. I've been to Hoxie before, and I've been to Jonesboro several times, obviously, but I don't think I'd ever been to Paragould.
Yeah, it was the Dodge store and the Dodger dog.
Yeah.
Infamous. If it's still there, I don't know. I haven't been. And gosh, I probably couldn't find my way to Greene County Tech if I had to.
Yeah.
It's how
If
long
you
has it
come into
been?
town on 412, you can't miss it.
Oh wow, 412 goes into Paragould. Because I always went up
Hmm.
from Jonesboro 67. Oh wow, so it's changed a
Yeah.
lot since I've been over there.
Yeah, so I took 67, 167 all the way from Little Rock, which was right by Cabot and Searcy,
Mm-hmm.
all the way till essentially where it ends, and you take a ride on 412.
Oh wow, I did not know that. That's wild.
So
I guess I.
you actually go north and west of Jonesboro to connect. You just go straight east to Paragould.
Wow. Hmm. Crazy. Well, the things you learn on this show. It's
Yeah.
amazing. It's amazing. And before we get started in our headlines, a couple of sports deaths we want to acknowledge: McKimby Mutombo and Pete Rose. And they say they come in threes. Though I heard John
Hmm.
Amos died, but he was not a sports figure, but he was well known by everybody. Your thoughts on Mutombo and Rose?
Yeah, Dikembe Mutombo was, I mean, his heyday was actually when I paid attention to basketball in the 90s and his Denver Nuggets. And of course, the finger wag everybody remembers through his years for block shots. But I'll always remember when his 8 seed Nuggets beat the 1 seed, the Sonics, that year with Sean Kemp and Gary Payton in the playoffs. And you got him laying in the lane, clutching the ball over his head, laying on the ground. That's just one of those iconic sports memories that you just always hear because eights don't beat ones. It just doesn't happen, especially back then. It never happened. So that was very cool. And that's going to be my memory of him. And of course, the mean tweets from Jimmy Kimmel. I don't know if you've seen it or maybe it's popped up on your feed the last couple of days, but Jimmy Kimmel always has celebrities read mean tweets. And
Mm-hmm.
one of them says that I can sleep well knowing that if anything ever happens to the voice of Cookie Monster, we have Dikembe Mutombo as a backup. It is one of the
Wow.
funniest things over here hearing Matumbo
True.
read it, and he sounds just like the Cookie Monster.
Yeah, he did. It's true. It's true. I mentioned when we taped earlier, my sister went to Georgetown and I went to ASU. Who got the shaft there? She
Yeah,
actually had a class with Matumbo. She was not into sports, but she said he was quite the engaging
that's
person,
awesome.
which is amazing because I mean he was as big as he was bigger than life because he was just so
Hmm.
huge, but yet he was very outgoing in those. I mean, it was just kind of wild. So uh,
Yeah,
that's my memory. And then Pete Rose.
yeah,
I mean, that one surprised me because I did not expect that.
yeah. I mean, he was a little older than I expected. Than I remember him being because he was into his 80s now.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, it's disappointing he's not going to get into the Hall of Fame during his lifetime. He's one that certainly belongs in, but I'm on the other end of it. Of course, as most people, I think all of them should get in the steroid users and him even. He bet on baseball, but like it didn't affect his play at all. He clearly was going out there and giving 110% every time out. And he wasn't a great human being. I think we can all agree to that. But he was a heck of a baseball player, and that's what the Hall of Fame is supposed to be all about.
Yes, he was. And I noticed Costas came out and said he should be in and put on the plaque, banned from baseball and whatever. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
it's simple as that. So, pretty
Yep.
wild. All right. Let's get to our talking points, shall we? Before we get into football, baseball playoffs have started. I was trying to watch the Astros Tigers. Michael K's doing the game, which nothing against him, but it's just weird because it's a voice
Yeah.
you never hear.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, yesterday was very cool. So
Mm-hmm.
you had the extra day for the Braves and the Mets, and doubleheader. And if they split, they both get in. If one team sweeps, it keeps the team out. The Diamondbacks had to feel so helpless yesterday,
Oh,
just sitting at home, and they play in the best division in baseball with the Dodgers and the Padres, who were so much better than everybody else. And you're thinking, we've done what we needed to do to get in, and then sit back and watch, and those two teams split, and you think you got a chance to prolong your season, and the next thing you know, you're turning in the jersey and turning in your pass card for the year. But that's what baseball is about. I mean, you play 162, and it's wild that it comes down to that last game every year. But yeah, it's now, for you and me, Cards and Cubs fans, we can kind of sit back and actually watch, meaningful baseball, because we haven't had the chance to do that in a few months at least.
yeah. So it'll be interesting to see what the ratings are because
Yeah.
football has just dwarfed everything, and I'm sure there are people that didn't even realize the playoffs had actually begun. So we'll see. Will you follow it closely on
Probably not
non-football days?
closely. I mean, I'll check scores, but I mean, if there's ever a baseball game that's in the same time slot as a football game, it's
Yeah.
poor scheduling by MLB's part.
Oh, totally. It'll totally get lost in the shuffle. All right, on to football. The Southwest Classic, Southwest Deja Vu all over again. Arkansas and A&M prevails. No matter what,
Yeah, saw this
Arkansas
one coming,
does
right? You see it coming from a mile away. We knew once the
every
game
year.
started to play out and how to unfold, we knew how it was going to end. I mean, we knew Arkansas was going to have a chance in the closing minutes to win it, and you knew that they weren't going to. I mean, that's just
You know,
it's the same old, same old. It's been who Arkansas football has been under Sam Pittman, and unfortunately, it's who Arkansas football has been in the Southwest Classic for the last 13 years. They're right there with them. They're just as good as Texas A&M as a team. Position by position, A&M's got a whole lot more talent, but Arkansas's always got a chance to win the game in the end. They don't, and that's exactly how this one played out.
it's just rinse and repeat. The song
Mm-hmm.
remains the same. And they find a new way every time to
Yep.
collapse. Um, why on earth would you run a fake kick out of a timeout?
Yeah. Out of the timeouts, what blows your mind, and even after
Yeah,
the fake punt, like you're like, okay, you can still pull it off, but you can't burn the timeout and then go to a fake.
no,
You can't give your opponent time to talk about, hey, watch for the fake here. Their kicker struggled all season long. You got to go ahead and kick that one.
yeah,
That was the lack of confidence in the kicker. And granted, he drilled one from 45 later in the game. Um,
yeah.
yeah, I
Which
mean, it's just those little things that just sometimes Arkansas's biggest enemy is themselves, and they just
yeah.
can't get out of their own way.
Well, it's just like the Auburn game. He makes the clutch field goal at
Mm-hmm.
the end. Uh, I don't know. It's just, and you got your second team defensive line in there on your final drive. I mean, where are your
Yeah.
starters? It's just I don't know. There's just so many things. It's just little things that just continue to add up, and it's I don't know. I know a lot of people went down. Oh, it's the final time. This will be
Mm-hmm.
different. No, it's the same.
Yeah, I mean, the final drive and really the last three drives for Texas A&M, Arkansas's front seven had no answer. A&M
Mm-hmm.
was just mowing them over. And so I don't know if they thought, hey, let's change things up and let's get the backups a chance, maybe some fresh legs. But I mean, they had no chance of stopping A&M's run game. It wasn't 3 yards in a cloud of dust. It was 12 yards and moved the chains every time they handed it off.
Oh yeah, it was. I mean, they were lucky they were still in the game in a
Yeah,
sense because A&M was just dominating. So what's next? What can you do in 3 days to
yeah.
give yourself a chance? Because you can't. I mean, can you parse down the playbook in 3 days? What can you realistically do to give yourself a fighting chance against the hottest
Yeah.
team in football?
I mean, so the one thing that I really took away from Saturday's game is the game plan was bad for against A&M. I mean, you've got a
Mhm.
quarterback who's inconsistent at best, completing about 50% of his passes on the season, and you're asking him to drop back 50 plus times. He had 41 pass attempts and 13 carries, and a few of those carries were obviously scrambles, out of the pocket and some sacks. Doesn't make sense. I mean, so he doesn't have the skill set right now, Taylor Green, to go, okay, option one's not there. What's option two and option three? He can't do it.
Mhm.
It's almost like he folds under pressure. And so he automatically rolls out to his right more times than not, leaving his blind side. And he doesn't have that internal clock. He can't sense pressure. He holds the ball way too long. And then now you're asking him to do that 45 times a game. It doesn't make sense. I mean, I get it if Jaquindon Jackson's banged up, but you still got Braylon Russell back there. You still got Hill back there. You got some options. Hand the ball off. Jackson having 10 carries in that game makes absolutely zero
Yeah.
sense. So to me, I don't know whether you have to shorten the playbook up, but you got to do things that complement your football team. You can't leave your offensive line, which is going to be outmanned every time when they play A&M, every time when they play Tennessee. You can't say, okay, our five is going to block their four. Because guess
Mhm.
what? If they happen to blitz, Arkansas's got no chance. And we saw it, free runner after free runner, especially from the outside. It's like leave a tight end, leave a running back in to chip or block, add an extra layer of protection to help you out. Give yourself a fighting chance instead of just hoping that your quarterback breaks a tackle in the backfield and can scramble around long enough for somebody to get open.
Yeah. I mean, if they aren't blitzed heavily the rest of the year, I'll be shocked. I mean,
Agreed. Yeah.
it's there. So
Yep.
they've got to come up with a way to combat it. Screens, something. I mean, that's what I don't
Yeah.
get. They keep putting the guys in the same situation. It's like the Pelfrey conundrum all over again. We're just going to keep working hard and do what we do. We're going to keep putting them in the same situation and wonder why the result continues to be the same thing every time.
Yeah, and this is what's been most disappointing, and it really this is the last two games that you've seen it from Arkansas because Auburn's included. You've got an
Mm-hmm.
offensive coordinator who everybody claims is this guru, this great, the second coming of the Lord and Savior for Arkansas football. Yet he doesn't make any adjustments during a game, none.
Yeah.
Like, hey, this is my game plan. I'm going to stick to it. I mean, Bobby Petrino's a better coach than that. He knows he has to adjust to the players that he has and adjust to the defensive scheme that he's being given on a given Saturday. In the last 2 weeks, they haven't done it, and it's
Yeah.
shown. Their offense has really struggled because of it.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure you've watched some of the breakdowns that people have done. Yeah, the plays are there's openings and whatnot, but it's not
Mm-hmm.
working. So you have to change something. So I don't know. Well, is there? I mean, realistically, Tennessee this weekend.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, what do you do? What do you do in practice? Is there really anything you can do to change the way you go about your business that has an effect,
No, I mean,
or you're pretty much locked in at this point?
yeah, I mean, because you're talking about you're halfway through the season now. I mean, this is the halfway point. I mean, so you kind of are who you are. I mean, yes, you can work on some protection. Yes, you can maybe change up a scheme a little bit. But I mean, from an offensive standpoint, your playbook's mostly in. You're going to throw new wrinkles in for every team and every defense you see. But I mean, you're going to have to figure it out because I mean, you've got what most people think is the best pass rusher in college football coming at you in James Pierce this week. I mean, he was projected top five pick for Mel Kiper when the season started. I know he hasn't played up to those numbers as of yet, but at some point it's going to come. And you just hope, as an Arkansas fan and I'm an offensive lineman, you hope it doesn't come against you. To be quite honest.
Yeah, in prime time on ABC. Ah,
Yeah.
yikes. Well, it was an interesting week in the SEC.
Mm-hmm.
Alabama and Georgia played a fantastic finish. It was, I mean, everyone's talking
Gosh,
like it's the game of the century. First half, I don't know if Georgia would say it was a game of the century. The
yeah.
finish
Yeah.
was phenomenal. Um, Alabama's for real, and DeBoer's a good coach. I mean, look at his record. It's not
Yeah.
like this is some guy lucking into some stuff. He's got a track record,
Yeah.
and
He's won everywhere he's been.
for the first time, a team just said, "Hey, Georgia, come here," and just smacked him in the mouth.
Yeah.
Not
I
everybody can
mean,
do it though.
yeah. I mean, that's right. Not everybody can do it, and it's amazing the mental block that Georgia has when Alabama lines up against them. Like Georgia can line up against, I'm pretty sure, some NFL teams and at least give them a battle. They're not going to beat an NFL team, but they're going to give them a run for their money. They line up
Yeah.
against Alabama, they lock up. And I don't know if it's a coaching deal, if it's a player deal, or what it is. Alabama owns them.
Yeah.
And that first half was just a clinic. I mean, I know that they said it 1,000 times. Ryan Anderson's unreal, or Ryan Williams, excuse me, the wide receiver. I mean,
Yeah.
17-year-old just shouldn't be doing that at that level.
No.
But Jalen Milroe's putting the ball out there for him to make those plays. The
Yeah.
defense is making plays. And I think the Alabama defense is not getting as much credit for that game, that first half, as they probably should. I know they fell apart in the second half, and they were put on the field a lot. Alabama's offense kind of shut it down, put it in cruise control after they got up 30-7. But I mean, the Crimson Tide, I mean, they're the number one team for a reason. I mean, and they're going to stay at number one until somebody proves that they can beat them. And I got to thinking after we tried to take this earlier, and I kind of thought to myself on the drive home, how many times are we going to see Alabama Georgia this year? 2 or 3?
At least. Yeah.
Yeah, and I don't
Probably
know
a
that's enough.
rematch in Atlanta. Yeah. And probably in the
Yeah,
playoff. But yeah.
and I'm kind of here for it. I mean, I know Texas
Oh
is very,
yeah.
very good. Ohio State's supposed to be good. But if you want to give me Alabama, Georgia 3 times this year, I'm watching every second of every one of them.
Oh, exactly. And it's also, yeah. Why, then you get into the whole SEC play 8 or 9, but we'll
Mm-hmm.
debate that another day. Kentucky looked really good against Ole Miss. Ole Miss had no idea how to attack that defense. Mark Stoops, man, his teams may not score a lot of points, but they don't have to because they've got a great defense.
Man can coach, and can he recruit some dudes up front?
Woo.
His defensive line are just animals. And we saw it a couple weeks ago, and maybe we shouldn't be all that surprised by it because the way they played Georgia and should have beaten Georgia if they could score some points.
It was
Their
not a
D line
fluke.
is going to shut down a lot of teams. It's going to be really, really hard to move the football against them consistently on the ground. And Ole Miss's offense is built on run first, use the play action, to use the hurry up, no huddle to get you on your heels. But when you're in 2nd and 9, 3rd and 11 all day, it's really hard to get to a rhythm as an offense and an offensive coordinator. And Jackson Dart looked human. And you
Yeah.
give kudos to Kentucky. And I mean, I know Kentucky fans have done a really good job of keeping Mark Stoops there. But if things go south and then the back half of the season in Norman, you may come calling for Mark Stoops, and that may convince him to come back.
That would be interesting. I hadn't thought about that, but
Mm-hmm.
that's definitely something to keep an eye on. Speaking of Oklahoma, they end up pulling out against Auburn. Auburn looked 400,000 times better. I don't know what
Yeah.
happens if they play 9 out of 9 times, but and Auburn left some red zone
Mm-hmm.
inside the 5 opportunities get away, but Oklahoma may have won, but it's going to be interesting to see how this plays out over the course of an SEC season because
Yeah, I agree.
there was some
I
hard
mean,
hitting.
we saw how deficient Oklahoma was offensively against Tennessee. They really struggled. They've got a ton of wide receiver injuries. I mean, they're playing guys that are number 6, 7, and 8 on the depth chart. Had to start a freshman quarterback on the road in conference play. But OU's defense played pretty well, especially after the first half. In the second half, they
Yeah,
played really, really well. And then the Auburn that we saw against Arkansas showed up in the second half against Oklahoma. They throw them a touchdown pass right to them. I mean, the pick six was the easiest they come, to be quite honest. And they just couldn't stay on the field, and they let Oklahoma get just enough opportunities to take advantage and win the game. OU fans call it Sooner Magic. A lot of that's luck. But Auburn, and of course, Hugh Freeze comes out and says, "Oh, people always think I'm throwing people under the bus." He is. He doesn't take any
yeah,
accountability. And guess what? He's probably on the hot seat now because they're 0-2 in conference. And those are probably, I haven't looked at the rest of their schedule, probably 2 of the easier games they had in league
yeah.
play.
It's not getting any easier for them, so that'll be interesting to see. And of course, as time moves on, I'm sure that will become a topic. Perhaps the biggest surprise to me in the league was Texas not covering against Mississippi State at home.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I did not
Yeah.
see that coming.
Yeah, they definitely struggled. I think it was 7-3 late second quarter in that first
Yeah,
half. They didn't come out of the game. I think they read all the press clippings and saw that they were 38-point favorite. Like, we'll cruise through this one. Because in the second half they put them away and they dominated pretty good. I know they didn't cover, But they beat them pretty good. I mean, that was a sleepwalk game for Texas because they're thinking to themselves, okay, we've already put ourselves on the map. We've already got a really good win under our belt. We got a bye coming up, and then Oklahoma, and one of our biggest games of the year. To me, that was just like a go through the motions. Yeah, we got to get this done. And now, coming out of the bye, they're going to ramp it up a little bit.
Well, in the SEC, when you're playing a team like, or in the Big 12, when you're playing a team like that, you can cakewalk and you're going to
Correct.
cover. In the SEC, as we know, and it took Arkansas 5 years to adjust, you still got to bring it because they're
Yeah.
still pretty darn good. All right, let us get to the recap of the NFL. We both thought the Cowboys would roll. They didn't. That was disappointing.
Yeah. We were close. The hook got us.
Yeah.
The hook always gets you.
So does this mean Dallas is in some trouble, or is that
Yeah, I mean,
reading
I
too
kind of thought
much?
they might be anyway. I mean, they don't have that explosiveness outside of CD Lamb anymore on the
Mm-hmm.
offensive side of the ball. They can't run the ball at all. Defense is good. They're nowhere near as good as they were last year. I mean, but this game was what 20-15. I mean, those guys in Vegas are good, right? 5.5.
Yeah.
How about that? But I mean,
Yeah.
divisional games on a short week, we probably should have known better a little bit. I mean, at least the Cowboys won the game. You could say that. But yeah, they're nowhere near what they probably most people, including themselves, expected them at this point in the season.
Yeah. Oh, I don't forgot to notice you were 12-10. I was 9-13. You're at 50%, even though you're one game under 500. I'm at 40. So
Yeah.
a lot to be desired on the pick. Saints Falcons. It was a good game. It was a push. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I like the red helmets.
Yeah. Throwbacks are nice for Atlanta.
Yeah. This one, you were right. The Bengals win. Panthers, I thought they'd put up more of a fight, but it
Mm-hmm.
was okay. Any thoughts on
Yeah.
this one? Nah.
It
Okay.
wasn't as miserable to watch. So Carolina is now competitive with Andy Dalton. You can
Yeah.
say that much.
The Bears pretty much own the Rams. The Rams just never had an answer. So maybe
Yeah,
they.
Rams just don't. Yeah, too many injuries for LA.
Does that mean the Bears are coming together though?
No, they didn't
No.
look good.
Okay.
Yeah,
This was a good game,
yeah,
and we mentioned Jones, and he was a factor. Vikings are for
hmm
real, aren't they?
they are for real. And this, I mean, this game should have been a blowout. It was a blowout to start. I mean, it's 28-7 at the half. Minnesota throws it in cruise control, and I know Green Bay came back and made it close late. Not as close as the score probably indicated. It ended up being just a 2-point win. But Minnesota's for real. Sam Darnold's making plays offensively. Aaron Jones almost 100 yards, of course. But I mean, if Sam Darnold's going to go out and go 20 of 30 with 290 yards and 3 touchdowns and only throw one interception, those are numbers you're going to take from him.
Oh
And
yeah.
and
With
now
that defense,
they got to go across the pond. They got a big game against the Jets coming up. I mean, they could be 5-0 coming back to the states, and like all of a sudden we got to start thinking about, is Minnesota a Super Bowl contender, which is crazy to think where they were just a few months ago.
yeah, no. I mean, it's the real. Oh, I forgot to put the final scores in, didn't I? Jaguars were kind of hanging with them,
Yeah,
and they covered. And the Texans, I was a little disappointed in the Texans, obviously, because
yeah.
I
This
picked
game
them.
goes both ways for me because that was almost a must-win game for Jacksonville as they're another offer. They got a lead. They're not playing great, but they're playing well enough. Offensively, they left some points out there. But Houston gets the ball late and does what they're supposed to. They march down the field. CJ Stroud doesn't make any mistakes. He puts it in the end zone and he lets his defense win it for him. And so, yeah, Jacksonville covers, so great for them, but they're still 0 for 4, and now they're out of the division race because they're 3 games already behind the Texans in that division, and they're not making up that ground.
Yeah, and they're stuck with Trevor Lawrence. I'd
Bad.
totally forgotten Joe Flacco was the Colts backup. Why on? I mean, if you're the Colts, tell Richardson to sit down and
Yeah.
watch
Well,
the
you don't have to
master.
tell him to sit down. Yeah, you don't have to tell him to
That's
sit down.
true.
He's going to get hurt. That's what he
But when
does.
he's
I
healthy,
mean,
tell him to sit down. Yeah.
yeah. Yeah, I mean, this game was 20 to nothing, I believe it was. I mean, Indy
Yeah, it
jumped
wasn't
out to a
close.
big. Yeah, I mean, because we knew that Pittsburgh's offense is bad,
Yeah.
and now if their offense doesn't go out there and put up some points, and if anybody ever scores 3 touchdowns on them, the game over,
Oh,
and that's
yeah.
exactly what Indy did.
Yeah. And if you score 3 touchdowns on the Steelers, you got a pretty good offense.
Yeah.
Jets. Oh, the
Oh, they're
Jets.
terrible. Yeah. We should have saw this coming. I mean, so there's clearly problems with the Jets offense. Like Brees Hall, we talked about this with Arkansas, and this is almost the exact same scenario. How does Brees Hall only get 10 carries for
Yeah.
4 yards on top of that? And I get that the conditions were sloppy. It was raining the whole time. Bo Nix had negative yards passing in the first half. He had 60 for the game, and they won. They didn't
Yeah.
just cover; they won.
Yeah.
So like that kind of that can't happen to a team that's supposed to be a Super Bowl contender, what the Jets are.
Yeah, I don't know if they were ever a Super Bowl contender, but the Bucks look good. They could be. The Eagles, who knows
Mm-hmm.
what's going on there? Does
Yeah, I
Sirianni
mean,
even make it out of the bye week?
the way they're playing right now, no. I mean, Baker Mayfield came up and just carved them up.
Ooh.
You know, and listen to Tom Brady call this game. I'm like, he's essentially saying, "Hey, the short passes are working. Philadelphia's defensive line wrecked so much against New Orleans. Ball's got to come out quick." And that's all Tampa did. 3-step drops, quick drop screens in the pass game, and Tampa just carved them up left and right. And by the time Philadelphia woke up, they're down 3 touchdowns.
Yeah, and they're not coming back. They're an absolute mess. Jane Daniels is the truth. Holy cow! I thought Kyler Murray would have a good game.
Yeah.
Jane Daniels, hold my beer, man. I mean, two
Right
weeks in a
now,
row.
yeah, Dan Quinn is already your coach of the year. Not
Oh,
even close.
easily, easily.
I'm a
And
believer. I mean, the offense that they've put around with Kingsbury and Jane Daniels, I'm a firm believer. 80% completion percentage to the first 4 games. Now, he's going to hit some struggles. It's going to happen. But Washington is now what I thought Arizona was going to be all year, which is not an easy out. I don't think they're a playoff team yet. But, I mean, if he keeps playing like that, it's going to be hard to keep him out.
yeah, I mean, Kingsbury was obviously a great hire, and
Mm-hmm.
he's working wonders. And it's just they're only going to get better. That's what's scary. That is scary.
Yeah.
That team is going to be good. Oh, I went to the wrong one. All right. I'm having struggles here. Oh, like you
Oh,
probably didn't want
you
to.
could have left
Yeah.
this one out.
All right, we'll
Yeah,
just move on.
move that one.
Uh, that this one's bad too.
Yeah, you move that one out too.
Hey, the Chiefs, typical Chief game. They find a way,
Mm-hmm.
but it's not pretty. This game, this game
Yeah.
was just wow. And that's the team we thought the Ravens were going to be that started 0 and
Yep.
they start 0 and 3, but ooh, man.
Yeah. I mean, so what we saw Sunday night was the Derrick Henry telling the NFL, "Hey, I still got a little bit, right?" I
Mm-hmm.
mean, he was running away from the Bills defender on that 80-yard touchdown run. I mean, the man's 250 pounds and 30 years old now, and he still
Yeah.
got it. And you add that on top of Lamar Jackson, if he doesn't turn the ball over, I mean, they're going to be really tough to beat. Isaiah Likely, if I don't do fantasy football, but whoever has him
He's
is
a
going to win
stud.
games
He's a
because
stud.
that's all he does is look for his tight end. Mark Andrews had a couple drops. I mean, he's kind of like falling out of favor, you can tell, as far as the safety valve, that the security blanket for Lamar Jackson. Isaiah Likely is going to be a nightmare for a lot of teams. If Derrick Henry gets 20 carries a game, which I don't think he's going to, I think they're going to save a lot of him for the playoffs. But if he's getting 20 touches a game with Lamar Jackson in that backfield, they're going to be really tough to beat. But Buffalo's defense got exposed too.
Yeah, and the Ravens defense, no one's talking about it, but man,
Mm-hmm.
they are. Oh, this one. Ooh, the. I
Brutal.
mean, how if you're Miami, knowing your quarterback has concussion issues going into the season,
Yep.
not have
Doesn't make any sense.
a quarterback in a backup who can do quarterback things. I
Yeah.
mean,
I mean, so if you're Miami, I agree with you 100%. It was really bad team building by not having a quality backup. You can't let Mike White walk out the window in free agency to go be somebody
yeah.
else's backup. But this is a team that has to have somebody like a Joe Flacco, or maybe even you trade for Mac Jones. Somebody who can play, who's played in the NFL before, who's got somewhat of a pulse. Because, I think that Miami was going to take a step back anyway, just because they're getting a little older and teams have seen the scheme now. But nobody thought that they were going to take this far back. They are an offense that is as bad as the Patriots right now, and that's saying
Yeah.
a lot.
Oh
They
yeah.
can't move the football. They haven't had a lead all year long, which is crazy to think about.
Well, you've got all those burners at receiver, and you can't get them. You don't have anybody that can get him the ball.
Mm-hmm.
You're paying Tyreek Hill massive money to just run
Jalen Waddle's
around.
got a huge contract too.
Yeah, it's just
Yeah,
unbelievable. You lose to the Titans. Will
yeah,
Levis, oh,
yeah.
unbelievable. And then the Lions looked really good, but the Seahawks, man, the Seahawks wouldn't go away.
Mm-hmm.
Uh,
They flashed the graphic during the game last night. Geno Smith in his last three starts against the Lions is unreal. And the Lions
yeah,
defense is not bad. The guy's got a quarterback rating of like 130 against the Lions his last three games. This was a really good game. The DK Metcalf fumble early on that was run back inside the 10 and they scored quickly after was the difference. But Jared Goff goes out and goes perfect. 19 for 19 last night?
yeah,
Catches a touchdown pass on top of that. Love the uniforms, by the way. That whatever blue you want to call that with the black was awesome.
yes.
Detroit's for real, but Seattle's got a chance in the NFC West. I really do believe that they're going to be in every game this year.
Yeah, I would. Geno Smith's tough. I'm gonna get rid of this timer
Yeah.
real quick because I keep screwing it up. But he's a tough hombre, and Mike McDonald. You can tell he's starting to kind of the
Mm-hmm.
team's coming together. So, but the
Run game looked good last
Lions.
night too with Walker.
What is it with the Lions? They've got all the parts. It seems like, but
Mm-hmm.
they just can't. They're too roller coaster. They're not
Yeah, they haven't learned to put people
steady.
away. They
Yeah.
let the low hanging fruit hang around. You got to come through and step on some necks, and they haven't learned that trait yet, which comes with winning. So they got to
Yeah.
win meaningful games late in the year. Because Detroit's a really really flashy team. To me, Detroit is what Baltimore was a couple of years ago. Now you got to go win in the playoffs.
Yeah. And the playoffs will be here before you know it. That's for sure. All
Mm-hmm.
right. Let's wrap this puppy up. Final word from you, Mr. Swafford.
We need you to get your picks up, Blair. You're costing us too much money. We're gonna have to sell your
That's
mic
true.
if you don't get some better picks.
Oh, no, not that. All right. Hit us up on Twitter. Hit us up with an email. We'll talk to you next time on the Hospitality Room presented by Mascot Media.